Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, your Kings insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me, Mr. Sean Cunningham from ABC 10. What's going on, Sean?
Oh, not much. I feel they always say after a birthday you're supposed to feel like a year older. I don't. I actually feel probably a few years younger after a couple of days of I've had. But no, I'm feeling good. Looking forward to talking about this shorthanded, resilient Kings team.
Yeah, shorthanded, resilient. Number one, happy birthday. That
You,
was
buddy.
yesterday. Happy birthday. I also was part of the grand scheme to embarrass you on during the middle of the game. We had you on the big board at Golden One Center on Sunday.
You know
That
what
was
was
fun.
funny about that? I was in the media room, which I didn't anticipate going down there at that time because I literally told you, I was like, "Hey, do you need anything?" Because I was going to go down. I was like, "No, I don't think I'm going to go down to the media room. I'm just going to take a walk." And I ended up going to the media room. And sure enough, I hear this commotion and everyone's like, "Oh, happy birthday, Sean. Happy birthday." And I'm like, something happened. What happened? What just happened? And then they're like, "Oh, they just showed you on the big board." And I'm like, "Oh no." Because when I get to when they said they showed you, I'm like, "Oh, now I'm great. It's going to be me and
Tasteful
Chris."
nudes. Tasteful nudes.
Tasteful, elegant. No, because there's this joke around people that I know that they like to share a picture that I took a selfie with Chris Martin of Coldplay, and I know it sounds like I'm name dropping because I am, but I did it at the Super Bowl press conference, and I had to do it in such a way. And since we are on YouTube, I can kind of show this, but it was like in a moment of like they're like my favorite band, so like he's coming by and he met this woman, and then all of a sudden he's right there. I was like, "Hey man, figure out pictures." He goes, "Yeah, man, make it quick," like in his like English accent. And I'm like, "Great, let me pull out my camera phone and try and make this happen." Much like the Paris Hilton one, where you can
Yep.
see where it's a struggle bus moment. And here I got to do it with Chris Martin, and I'm holding up my phone in such a way, and I like bit my lower lip like this because I tend to do that when I'm nervous. And I took the picture that way. So everyone's like, "Oh, are you biting your lower lip?" So I thought you were going to show the Chris Martin selfie up there, but fortunately, no. It was me holding the Larry O'Brien trophy ever so lovingly.
Yeah. When I sent that in, I hit Moke up, and Scott Moke said, "Well, you got to give me an embarrassing picture." And I sent him the picture from last week's podcast where, I'm wearing a Santa hat and you're laughing, which I thought was a good picture. And he's like, "Yeah, that's not enough." And so I'm going through my phone and I have this picture of Sean in LA. We went to, what's that donut shop?
Oh yeah, Randy's Donuts.
Randy's Donut, and I got you like holding with your hands up, holding the donut, but it's just so dark and
Right.
and grainy. And so I did, of course, I have pictures of you and Lena holding the NBA championship trophy, the Larry O'Brien trophy, when we were in LA for some, we were there for, it was finals, right?
Actually, that was in San Francisco.
San
We did,
Francisco.
yeah, we did for the finals, and they had the media hotel like in San Francisco with the everything was
Media
happening
party.
in Oakland. Yeah, it was a good time, and it's funny because it reminded me that you have my Twitter profile picture. I believe I still, yeah, from La Jolla Cove. You took that picture of me when it took us like 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm probably understating that a little bit. It took me forever to get this stupid stand-up right for my look live from the Cove during King's training camp.
I forgot about that. Yeah. We were like, you were trying to shoot it out with the Cove in the background.
The
Yeah.
lighting had to be right. I had to get the timing right, and I kept effing it up. And yeah, it was a struggle. But I also have to say, so thank you for taking that video because I did miss it. But to show it on the big board, it reminded me. I wanted to tell you, and I think you're the people who listen and watch this podcast would probably agree that when I went to go tag you and put it on Instagram, James Ham, sir, you have not been on your Insta game. We got to step that
Oh
up.
no, I'm not a Graham guy.
You are though. I did a deep dive on your
You're cyber
Instagram.
stalking me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm in an episode of You.
Yeah, I did. I was going through your IG, and you have some great moments, some great images, and I like the collages you do for your travels. You guys have been all over the world, you and your lovely family. So yeah, I think you should definitely step up that. Bring the Instagram game back. Even look, Instagram is harder for people who look like you and I to get a big following. so don't, we're not IG models, so that far from it. I mean,
Man,
I'll speak for myself maybe then.
Mark Jones dropped an IG gram. Did you hear his what did he say?
Yeah, but I
He
wouldn't
took,
be able to quote it
I
accurately.
think he said he took more steps than an IG model. And I was like,
Or
oh,
traveled more than something. It was, yeah,
oh
traveled more.
yeah, yeah. It
But
was on the Bryn Forbes travel, right? Is that what it
yeah,
was?
that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, well, he
Yes.
took like 14 steps. It was like, whoa, like that's crazy.
But
Uh,
anyway, I mean, I know you like taking, you take photography, you do some good photography, and you go down there and you can really see a lot of, like, I've posted a lot of stuff on Instagram over the years, but going back, it's like there's a lot of stuff from over the George Carl years, and it'd be good to see that revive, because I don't think you posted in about a year and a half or 2 years. So
yeah, I don't think I've posted since Europe.
that's right.
Yeah, like I did a lot of collages when we were in Europe, and I had a good time with that. Like I fans should know that this is a good point to say this. Like I have a journalistic Facebook page, and a lot of fans try to friend me on my personal Facebook page, and it's nothing against anyone specific. I don't allow people that I don't know. So what I do is when someone asks me, and if I'm like, oh, do I remember them from high school or not? Who is this person? I go
Right.
and I look, and it's like, hey, if you're friends with, 6 different people that cover the Kings, then I'm not going to do it, because that's not what I do. My personal stuff is usually, so I try to separate like church and state, and I don't want my kids to be part of something, and because
Makes sense. Yeah.
there are on occasion there are some like weird people that we that we run into in this business, and so you don't want I don't want that. So, but I've already put so much out there on Instagram that I probably should just like give in and do it. So,
Yeah.
all right, Sean, fine. I'll try to work
Yeah.
the Instagram, the Kings beat into Instagram, and kind of do it.
You
Which
caved. You caved.
I caved. There it is. Okay, which brings me, hey, look, if you have not subscribed to the Kings Beat, you need to do it now, because I'm going to have some sort of cutoff date here. But we have the second Kings Beat off the record happy hour. And the first one was a hoot. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of people enjoyed that. And I want you to be invited to that. And the only way you can get an invite is to be a premium subscriber to the King's Beat, which is not all that. It's like $7 a month or $75 for a year. I know it's Christmas time, but look, jump on board. We're doing fun stuff. We're doing amazing stuff like the podcast. This is only going to get better, so people know we're only going to keep adding layers to what we're doing, especially on the podcast. We've got some new stuff coming in the coming days. It's just the COVID outbreak with Sacramento Kings slowed a lot of things down, because I had some meetings scheduled, and then games, and shoot
Kings
arounds and stuff like that,
Kings
practice
are
and all
home
that.
for the holidays, and things get in the way. Real life gets in the way. But
Yeah.
the good thing is, the good thing is, it's like it is the season of giving. So put it on your holiday wish list.
Yeah, there it is. So yeah, we're gonna do some cool stuff. So you're gonna get a much better, like, we'll add graphics, and we'll do some other stuff that's coming, which I think is gonna be exciting for a lot of the people who follow the Kings beat. Sean, let's get into it. The Kings have a COVID problem.
They do. So does the world, by the way.
So does the world. We talked a little bit about this last week on last week's pod, because we were waiting for more and more people to come out. I wrote about it on Sunday, my Sunday musings, because I think it's like really the craziest thing. Again, before we started, I just had a heating and air guy come to my house because my heater wasn't working upstairs. Took him like 20 minutes to figure it out. It was something stupid, which I would have got to, but the guy came way quicker than I thought. And the reason I bring it up is because as he was walking out the door, he asked if I was still doing King stuff. I said yes. And then we started talking about the COVID situation with the Kings. And I think there are a lot of people out there that are still confused by a lot of this, but do some research for yourself. Don't send me like far alt-right propagandists like research. Actually do some research on the COVID stuff. And I'm just going to say, I don't know how the NBA is handling the way they're handling it right now. Adam Silver just said, like, I don't know, is it 15, 20 minutes ago? We're recording this It's a little before 1:00 on Thursday. Adam Silver went on ESPN and basically on Tuesday. Sorry, I don't even know what day of the week it is. Yeah. But Adam Silver went on and said, hey, look, basically what Ty Haliburton said, the show must go on. We must keep playing. And I don't know what they're thinking their watered down product is going to look like on Christmas Day with like 14 G League players facing off against each other. But Sean, this is an issue, and it's an issue with so many different layers, because it's not just about the players. It's not just about one team. The Kings went from Charlotte, where they likely picked up the virus. They went to Cleveland, played against the Cavs. They went to Toronto. Then they came home and played the Washington Wizards. Cleveland is now in a full-blown, everyone's got it. Now, here we are a couple of days later, and heaven forbid, Toronto is in a full-blown where their plane is waiting on a tarmac to see if they can get 6 players and like 7 additional G League players to get on a plane to get out of Canada.
You're legitimately seeing high-level NBA reporters saying like the plane is taxiing.
The plane is taxiing.
These are like these are the types of reports that are coming out right now. Like, this isn't somebody signing with the team or if someone got fired or a rumor out there. It's like, no, we're giving plane updates for a team that's going to go play the Bulls. Like, what are we
who's
doing?
Already in a COVID outbreak,
right.
And some of them are coming back. And then, like, look, we saw the first drop today. I said it on D-Lo and KC. I've said it here. The Washington Wizards are next. And KCP tested positive or entered health and safety protocols this morning. Just wait for the landslide. It's coming. And so we have that issue, but I'll also tell you that there are staff members with the Sacramento Kings that also have it. We talked about this a little bit. We're not going to name names. We're not going to out guys that may or may not be sick, guys and girls. I don't know who it is behind the scenes. I know a couple, but I'm not going to get into who it is. Some of them are suffering. Some of them are not okay. They are struggling. They are not asymptomatic. And we shouldn't just blow it off and say, they're 19 to 38 years old. They're all going to be just fine. And so that's where we're kind of at, Sean. They signed Addie Murphy this morning. Well, they plan to sign Addie Murphy, and then there's going to be more, right?
Yeah, it'll become official today. There shouldn't be any other official signings today. You might get, news of one maybe later this evening, but I think it's going to be relatively quiet. But I think we'll hear one, before Wednesday's game. I don't know if that player or two would be available for Wednesday's game, but yeah, there's certainly some movement that's going to take place, and it's very fluid. I mean, I think they're trying to get. You mentioned the Adam Silver thing, and there was talk about trying to speed up asymptomatic players, which I'm like, is this what it's coming to? Like, I don't have the answer, James, and I don't want to sit there. Look, I get uncomfortable even around vaccination stuff. Like I always say is, hey, protect people, protect your people,
yep.
Protect yourself. If someone doesn't want to get it, look, that's on you. I disagree. I would disagree in that way, but I don't admonish those. Like, I'm just, hey, do what you do, and it does, I have some strong feelings about it, but I just don't really share a lot of them, and it's
yeah,
go ahead and do what you do, but at the end of the day, it's like, you just look at numbers. And I know in basketball, we're always looking at statistics and sports and analytics and what have you. And some would argue that those are bad for the game, but you just look at sheer numbers, and you just look at people who haven't protected themselves. And then you look at the ones that do, and then, go ahead, go test whatever fate you want to do. And there's some people that make it all about themselves and not the others around them, and people who are more susceptible. And I get it, but these are real world problems. And I do credit the NBA for being 97% vaccinated. Good for you guys. And you've got 60 something percent that have been boosted, and, good for those guys as well. But we know that there's a lot of people that aren't going to do it. And the NFL has probably a bigger problem. And not to compare the sports, but, it much like the rest of the world. And I think Adam Silver is aware of this. It's like shutting down the league, postponing games. he mentioned it today. He says we have to learn how to live with this virus. Like, you know, I think people look at professional sports, and if they see these things shut down, there's a trickle down effect to that economically. Like, what is the restaurants and bar industry going to do? What is other concerts, you know, what are
Stadium
venues going
workers.
to do? Right.
Yeah.
What does this look like? And nobody wants to see another shutdown. And you look at Britain, who's looking at a possible shutdown, and what does this look like around Christmas time? And yeah, it's scary, man. It's scary. There's a lot of stuff going on. The good news is the majority of people are pretty okay. And there's a lot of players that are vaccinated that have it, and they're asymptomatically, except there are people who are really going through it and having some tough times. So I don't know what the right answer is there, but I get it. I just, you know, I look back and I just kind of shake my head and I just go, I'm just glad I'm not one of these people that have to make the decisions.
Yeah. No, I fully get that. I fully get it. And, you know, again, we talked about this a little bit last week. My concern is like Christmas is this coming weekend. I mean, and this huge outbreak, it just happens to come like 10 to 14 days after Thanksgiving, when a bunch of new people get together. And, you know, I'll take another step forward. Like, just because the players aren't getting sick and they're not being hospitalized, it doesn't mean that all the fans in the stands who are now around new people and are sharing a bubble now, that they're not going to have some negative effects, and that they're not going to, even if they're all vaccinated or they all tested negative, it doesn't mean that they're not going to get it in a building and then take it home to their family members that aren't vaccinated this weekend. And so, like, there is a level of safety that we have to control here. And, you know, and I guess you're right. Everyone gets to make their own decision. And as someone who his wife works for a major health provider, like, I know the numbers as well as anybody. So you don't need to feed me something that, you know, somebody's opinion on the death toll, or someone's opinion on vaccination rates, or who's in the hospitalization rates. I got the numbers. I got them. Like, I know more numbers than your normal person, because I can see it firsthand. And I can tell you that at like the big outbreak in August, 98% of the people that were hospitalized were unvaccinated.
Yeah. And
that's it.
And you know, not to get too damn much down the rabbit hole, but it's like, you know, things around the people who decide not to protect themselves, or for whatever reason, you know, it's like, you're free to make that decision, but then there becomes consequences for it. Just like,
Yeah,
you know, James, you could walk out to any street corner and yell whatever words you want. There are ramifications if you get your ass beat, right? Like that may happen. There's ramifications that come with such action. So
there's ramifications with tweeting a response to DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, like with great freedom comes great responsibility. So
there it is. Yeah. Next, we're going to deep dive into the new Spider-Man movie. No, I'm just kidding.
Is it bad, by the way? And I already probably know the answer to this, but like, I have like this fatigue over not Spider-Man, but just comic book movies in general. Like, I got boys, man. I know, but there's so many. There's so many comic book movies that I don't even know where to begin. Like, I was like, oh, you're gonna see Spider-Man? I go, I haven't seen Spider-Man since Jamie Foxx was a villain, and that one was so bad. So I don't know. I guess I got to see this one though.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. Me and the family went on Saturday.
Doug Christie loved it.
Yeah, Doug Christie loved it. He tried to be a spoiler. You know what, Sean? Let's just go there, since we need to shift gears, and we're going to shift gears right here. Doug Christie.
Love him, hate him. Your
he
thoughts.
Is 2-2. Yeah, Doug Christie. Is it all his fault? No. He's 2-2, and I think we're seeing something interesting. The players are playing really hard. We're having a battle between Doug Christie is trying to coach a team, A, without Alvin Gentry, B, without Mike Longobardi, C, without Rashawn Holmes, and D, without 6 other players because of COVID. He's in the middle of an outbreak. And then now we're adding a 7th on Tuesday with Neemias Queta. To me, like, and again, like, take it for what it's worth, because I am friends with Doug, but I think all that we wanted to see from this stretch was somehow hold something together and just make it positive so we can get through it. Because when you got 6 players going down, you should lose almost every game. And that's what we just kind of assumed, like the win-loss record doesn't matter at this point. And Doug doesn't have an official win-loss record because he's an acting coach. He's not a official head coach. All of these wins and losses go on Alvin Gentry's interim tag, which is, so we have the acting to the interim head coach, Doug Christie. I think it's been good. And I think that the person who Doug is, the positive vibe that he brings to the media room, it is helping get through this. I think that might be an issue on a full-time basis down the road if that's who he is and what he is. Like, he's going to have to be a little tougher. But for right now, I think it might be the right guy at the right time. And somehow he's finding a way to get something out of these players and get wins here and there.
Yeah, and I mean that's a lot to unpack too, because I think what Doug has the he has the advantage over Alvin in this regard, because there's so many players out. It really creates a opportunity for so many other guys that can both be a blessing and a curse. And I think you see it some nights where, you know, you're playing with a roster that oftentimes doesn't play together, but the opposition has no idea who these guys are. You know, there's not like there's a scouting report on a lot of these Stockton guys who are coming up.
Or Damian Jones, who
can go out there and play like garbage and then all of a sudden have a career night the next night and then go out there and play like garbage again against his former Warriors team, you know? So it's like, there's such an inconsistency, but I think you see it's refreshing in the sense because it is something different. And I think the tough part is where it really comes down to guys like Buddy and Harrison and Ty, who all of a sudden are asked to do a lot more. I'm really, really feeling for Harrison Barnes, who's coming off this foot sprain, took his time to come back. And in hindsight was a brilliant move, because not that you could ever anticipate such a thing, but this guy's going to have to go out there and all of a sudden play 40 minutes a night. And when you think about, James, the 3 games in 4 nights, right?
Yeah.
I mean, bro. And then you look at, now you're going to get 3 days off at the end of this week. You know, you'll be off for Christmas. You're not going to play again until Sunday after the Wednesday game. That's great. But then look what's on the horizon. It's like 5 games in 7 nights. And it might even be a smaller, I think it's 4 and 6. So it's,
well, we're in the middle of 4 and 6. Doug has coached 4 and 6.
Yeah.
We just got to the end of 4 and 6.
And then you have another one that's coming up, and you kind of bringing it back to the whole COVID thing. Like, it presents opportunities. I think guys are energized because of it. You know, they're asked, like, I know there was a big discussion, even though I wasn't working last night, I did go back and listen to the media sessions, and you know, everyone's kind of focusing on Tyrese Haliburton kind of being the guy, playing like the main guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he had some interesting things to say there, but going up against a team like the Spurs and then the Warriors, and then just the everything that happened in that, and then you're playing with guys you're a little bit unfamiliar. Yes, they have a training camp together. Yes, they have some moments together, but there hasn't been a lot of practice time. And all of a sudden, you don't have a Darren Fox. You don't have a Marvin Bagley, who's now back in the lineup. You don't have Alex Len that you can just, you know, rely upon a little bit more in certain cases, especially against a lot of bigs in this league. And now you're playing with these lineups that you probably wouldn't do. And then Doug comes in and he's like, hey, throw it out the window. We're going to play big. We're going to go long. We're going to put long lineups out there and just see what it looks like. This 3-guard lineup, we're going to go with it a little bit, but then we're just going to throw it out the window and we're just going to go big. So,
well, he had to. He lost all of his guards.
Yeah, all of them are gone. And he had to bring Justin Robinson off the street, who, you know, unfortunately I still don't think he's made it. No, he did make a shot late last night, but he was like, oh, for the world, you know, and it's a really, you know, it's crazy because I think about so many of these guys who are going to get their NBA dream. And then, like, what does it do for the confidence? Like, they're coming in and some guys can take it, but then you look at like something like Justin, who really hasn't played well in the small moments that he's had. And he's asked to, you know, as you like to use a term, hold the rope. And, you know, it doesn't look great. And then it's like, okay, great. Well, there was your NBA dream and you had 10 days and yeah, you got to play some games and you can still you're still in the league. Like, you're not going to take it. You're not going to like shy away from it, but it's just like, man, that's gotta be a tough thing.
Yeah. So again, we'll just go back and forth, unpacking like multiple things. I think the interesting thing, we're going to get to Ty here in just a sec, but one of the more interesting things was what Doug said following the game about, like, they threw a box and one at Ty, and I think
and it worked.
yeah, it worked. Well, the thing that Doug said was, like, number one is ultimate sign of respect, that's what they were doing, and I thought, okay, well, that's fine. But the other thing Doug said is, like, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take this one because, like, I don't have all of the game plan in place to make an adjustment for that. Now, Ty could have made an adjustment himself. He could have pulled the team aside and said, hey, or Harrison could have said, hey, maybe we should do this against the box and one. Someone needed to step up and say, hey, we got to do something different. But I think that's the problem that people aren't getting. It's that, like, all the rush to get Doug the head coaching job, he doesn't have just like an unlimited, like, file folder in his head of, oh, they hit us with a box and one. Let me open that box and let me scroll through and let me choose 4 plays, and I'm going to run those 4 plays and we'll get through the box and one. He prepped for specific things. That wasn't one of them. And he's only been on the job, I don't know, what are the Kings now? They're 14 and 19, 14 and 20. Like,
yeah, that sounds right.
Around there. So he's been on an NBA bench for like 30 something games. Before that, he was in a booth. He was in, and before that, he wasn't around basketball hardly at all, except for training some guys. We're talking about 14 years since he's been in the league, and the changes in the league between that time and today are nuts. I mean, again, just look at Steph Curry as, like, how different the league is from when Doug played to how it is now. Steph is drafted in what, the 09 draft. Doug stopped playing during the 06-07 season. Steph now has so many more 3-pointers in that time than anyone has ever had. I mean, it's something crazy.
The all-time leader. Yep.
He's the all-time leader, but he's done it in like 700 and something games versus 1,300 for Ray Allen. And so, like, the game has shifted. It's changed so much that, yeah, like, Doug is preparing and he's doing the best he can to get into a game and coach it. But he also doesn't have, like, a seasoned guy standing there next to him and saying, hey, let's try this, this, and this. This is what I would do in that situation. And that's the problem. Again, you take away Mike Longobardi, you take away Alvin Gentry, and then you realize that the Kings were already down an assistant because Alvin stepped into the role that was Luke Walton's. And it's some pretty bare bones stuff going on. And so there's going to be some mistakes made on the coaching side. There's going to be moments where, like, I think at one point in the Spurs game in the third quarter, he forgot to put a point guard on the floor. Like, he like, Harrison Barnes was like, oh, I guess it's me, like, taking the ball
by way of default without having all these guards. And I was thinking about that too, James. Like, think about Doug, and he wants to be a head coach.
Yeah.
And in back-to-back games, like, we talk about this all the time with, like, Davion Mitchell and Tyrese Haliburton, these young guards in the league. You're going to go from Damian Lillard one night to Steph Curry the next, to Russell Westbrook the next. Like, all the guards are heavy, right? Hey, Doug, go coach against Greg Popovich one night and Steve Kerr the next. And I know that's just the league, but, like,
it's a PhD level of education needed.
Right.
You need a PhD.
Yeah, and these are two of the last, like Steve Kerr's taking over now. Like, even take it to a broader sense. It's like Steve Kerr's the new USA basketball coach. Greg Popovich just took over for Coach K just a few years ago, coached in the Olympics. Like, these guys are, revered and incredible. And
yeah, what are they? Championships? How many? Right. Like 8 championships between the two of them? Something like that.
But then you get Doug, who's on a depleted team, and he goes out there, and look, I know the Spurs aren't, among the elite teams in the league right now, but you go out and get a win against Pop, like, that's, and then you're coaching a team that's depleted again the next night, playing third game in 4 nights against a Warriors team that's easily the elite of the league, like maybe in the top 3 of the league, and probably the best team in the league, and
probably has the best player playing right now in the league.
On the planet. I think he's the best player on the planet right now. I mean, you could argue Kevin Durant, and I know Nikola Jokic, and with all due respect to them, and Giannis.
And Giannis, yeah. But the way Steph is playing,
that's the discussion right now. And even if you just want to say who's been the best player over the past 30 days, it's Steph. To me, it's completely Steph. So and now you got to go play against that. Now look, you were in that game. I mean, it felt like that game was a 5-6 point, basically a 2-possession game from the majority of the game.
Yeah.
and you're in it. And you could say that maybe the Warriors came in a little light, took them a little bit lightly, but on the defensive end, they didn't. They had 8 steals, I think, at the half. I think I noted, like, right before halftime. I mean, they were really wreaking havoc on the Kings. And, you're right, James, there wasn't really the adjustment. They just kind of tried to keep chipping away, and, they were going to live by the buddy and die by the buddy. They were definitely going to try and get Buddy Hield involved, and they realized if we're going to win this game, he's going to have to be a big part of it. They tried to get him going, and Tyrese had a fabulous game, but it's like, they pulled away late, as they do. I think Harrison made a really good point talking about how the way, they have it down to a 3 or 4 point game, and all of a sudden they turn around and just make it a 12-point game like that.
They took the lead. The Kings took the lead at one point.
In the second half, but Harrison was even making the argument, like in the first half, he's like, we got it to a 3-point game, and then all of a sudden it's 12 like that. Like it just the switch was flipped really quickly. And then you're right. I remember, because again, I was in the building, and I wasn't there as a media. I went as a spectator, because I had a friend of mine she's a huge Warriors fan. So I had also had a few, but I'm looking at this and I'm just going, how do the Kings have a lead here in the third, fourth, whatever it was? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me right now. And they came out of the third quarter. Like, how many times have we seen the third quarter just be an absolute letdown for Sacramento? And there you have these guys who are, flying in the face of adversity. And look, I know people don't like to hear moral victories. That was a moral victory to me last night. And I think that was one that they should have felt good about it. And I think Doug is a big part of that. Like, there's so much talk about his energy, his communication. You see him running steps before the game. I mean, that was kind of cool, but like, that's just Doug, Doug, like, I've said this even when Alvin took over. And I think even when Doug was added to Luke's bench after, think of just all the assistant coaches Luke had in his tenure in Sacramento.
A lot. These
guys, he's in the perfect situation with Luke and Alvin. Like, they're going to allow him to be Doug. Doug is a quirky dude. He's a quirky guy. He's not the buttoned up kind of coach, and he'll be that one day. I hope not, because I hope a lot of the nuances that make Doug Christie continue to be there. For one, his absolute, sometimes foolishness, optimism, and positivity. Because I mean, that's just who he is. We were having a conversation the other day. Someone's like, man, that's kind of corny, isn't it? It's like, yeah, but that's Doug. Like, Doug's kind of corny. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm kind of corny. Like, we all, like, it's just how it is.
Yeah. He walked into the media. He's walked in the media room the last couple of games and said, what does he say? What's that, family? Like, right. He knows all of us. That's the thing. Like, he knows all of us.
I've known Doug for 20 years almost now. And it's like, it's just it's like James, if you became the head coach of the Kings, it's like, well, great. Now I got to talk to a guy that I know uber well.
It's happening.
Like, yeah, here we are. We're going to make.
I'll be the GM. We'll just give me the GM job. Me and Doug will run this.
Boy, you thought Vlade was bad.
Well, they had a better deal 2 days ago.
Yeah, there you go. I can't do worse.
All right. So in the midst of the chaos and the games coming at you, boom, boom, boom. And some of those games are coached by coaches like Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich. Doug also has had to deal with some internal strife. And it's the internal strife that I think we've all been waiting for. It's Mo Harkless losing it, going bananas on the sidelines in the first quarter. And we were sitting there and I go, ooh, what's going on there? Hey, are you seeing this, Sean?
Yeah. Thanks for that tip too, by the way.
And Sean goes, whoa, with the camera, like right up, like, I got this. And boom, we have this like moment where like I could have recorded some stuff on my phone, but to be honest, what Sean can do with his camera is absolutely spectacular. You were able to get right in there. And I'll say this before you started rolling, and people will be able to go and find that yet. I may even link it in the description of the podcast. But before you started rolling, Tyrese Haliburton was part of that as well. He's yelling and screaming at Buddy from the side. He's sitting like 2 seats down and turning and yelling, and Mo's yelling, and Buddy's yelling at someone behind him who's trying to, like, I don't know what he's trying to do, but
he was upset that he was touching him.
Oh,
yeah,
stop touching me.
yeah, he just looked, he's like, stop talking, he's like, stop touching me, bro. And I like that part I was able to make out, and I had that part confirmed, but it was like, I felt bad. It was Isaac. I feel bad for Isaac, but yeah, it was somebody was trying to calm him down, and he's like, don't touch me, you know. And same thing with Mo didn't want to be touched, like leave me alone kind of a thing. Is he was I thought Mo handled it pretty well, but you're right. And yeah, Ty was very much a part of that, even though the video doesn't show it. Like the moment when I first looked over and saw it, I see like Ty like flailing his arms in such a way. He's got very long arms, so I can see this. And yeah, it was fortunate to show that. But I think it got some. I think it got the right amount of attention. But I think what people were pretty quick to notice, which was like, okay, it's a moment that happened, and then all of a sudden the next play out there, like once Mo got on the floor, for one, he was like hell bent on scoring. He was going to take it up hard. He got a 3-point play, converted the free throw. But the minute he scored, he looks over Buddy, and Buddy came over, dapped him up. They were good to go. It was like it never happened. And it's I compare it a little bit to, sometimes you don't like to see how the sausage is made, but these are the types of conversations are had oftentimes at any points in practices and at any points during games. And sometimes you're not as animated, but I love Mo. He lost his composure to a degree, but I felt like he held his composure really well. It was like he had to illustrate a point to Buddy, because sometimes, and to Tyrese and however that went, walk away, remove yourself a little bit, keep your head. And then when other people kind of come up, you kind of see him now venting more at what he's trying to communicate, but through the coaches. And then he sits down, he towel over his head, he kind of gets it going. And it's like, take that moment to breathe deeply, and then it's over. Then you go play and you use it to your advantage.
I'm over it. That's what he kept saying. I'm over it. That's what
I said. What it looked
like.
Done.
Yeah, he kept saying, I'm over it. I'm over it. And that's what it looked like he was yelling. Yeah, so I love everything you say. I went back and watched like the 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the end of the first quarter. I'm like, what was it that set Mo Harkless off?
Yeah, because they had the lead going into that. They had a very nice quarter, and they had a lead. Yeah.
So I didn't go all the way back to the beginning. I'm assuming that Buddy had done a couple of things earlier in the quarter that had got him boiling. But at I think his 51, 52 second mark, Buddy had shrunk inside into the key and was out of position. They kicked the ball out to Lonnie Walker. He ran at Lonnie Walker and just flies by. Woo! Like, there he goes. Like, what was that all about? Lonnie Walker puts the ball on the floor, goes right to the rack and shoots it over the top of Mo and other people trying to cut off the straight line drive. Buddy gave up a clear, straight line drive to the basket and an automatic 2 points. So I think that was the final straw. I don't know how many things had built up before that. But Mo Harkless has played like 60 games with Buddy at this point. It might be 60 games of angst built up, and like just this one moment where they were playing tough, physical in the passing lanes, collapsing the lane. They were doing all of this good stuff. And then you just let the dude walk in. Like, we don't give up easy points in the final 2 minutes of a quarter. That's not what we're not good enough to survive that. And so I thought that was brilliant. But then, Sean, we get past it, and then Buddy, like, Mo is aggressive, and then it's almost like it focused Buddy, and we got holy Jesus Buddy in the second half. It was this moment where it was like, now we're living by the Buddy. And I think it's the final 3 minutes of the third and the fourth quarter. He scored 24 points of his 29. Dude, he was unbelievable.
Dude, he hit that half court shot after the buzzer, like right after the hit.
Yes.
That's how hot he was. And you know, it's kind of funny because, yeah, I did see some people who were like, oh, Mo Harkless pissed him off, and this is what it took. And I love the fact that, you know, I remember being, we've seen it several times, but I remember really kind of coming to a head in New York at the Garden. And I was at that game, and that, you know, Fox had this tremendous game against the Knicks, but he got totally pissed off in that game and then went off and just torched them. You know, had this great, I think you've seen that windmill dunk at one point, had a great steal late in the game. You know, the Knicks were just trash though too, but and Buddy just right after the game, he's like, I told you he plays better pissed off. Like, everyone's always trying to get Fox to get pissed off for him to rise to that occasion that he's so capable of being. It's just everyone wants to have him keep his foot on the pedal and continue to be that way. But last night was that game against San Antonio was very much a moment where people were kind of making that same conclusion. Oh, but he got pissed off and look at what happened. And it's like, if that's what it takes to get him out of some of these shooting slumps that he's had, to where he can just all of a sudden like do it. Someone should just go get in his face every game. And then what happens the next night, last night, you have Mo kind of get in his face again, but it was for a different way of communication. It wasn't so much out of anger. It was almost like, no, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And buddy, we need you here. We need this here. And it was like, he was almost another coach on the floor at that moment, which is hilarious. Cause I think someone pointed out like Buddy is like older than Mo Harkless, but Mo has an incredible basketball IQ, a very good feel for the game. And I think he wants to see his guys do well. And I think that what happened in San Francisco last night, late in that game, was very much a Mo trying to pull something out of Buddy.
Yeah. And I'll even say this. I don't think Buddy Hield gets angry, but that's not who Buddy is.
Cool as a cucumber.
Yeah. I think what Buddy what he got there, he got embarrassed and he took it to heart. And I'll even say this. We don't know what happened in the locker room, but I almost guarantee you that there was more conversation once they got in the locker room at halftime. Like I almost,
of the San Antonio game.
Yes, of the San Antonio game, where they literally like had a moment where I know Doug was talking to Buddy walking off the court, but once they got into the locker room, I guarantee you that there was some clarification on what the frustration was from Mo. Now, let's fast forward again. We get to the press conference afterwards. Doug does, brothers, it's brothers being brothers. Those things happen and that they're communicating and he thinks it's a good thing. Tyrese Haliburton did not take that approach. He flat out threw some shade. He was asked directly about Buddy Hield's exceptional night by Tony Harvey. He was asked about how good Buddy was and how amazing it was to Buddy do his thing. And Tyrese Haliburton answered with, Mo Harkless was excellent on defense tonight. And that's all I need to know. That's young guys trying to be leaders. But that was a moment where a player said, let's back it up and I'm going to show you which side I'm on. Buddy had a great night and Buddy did Buddy things. Right. But I'm going to get to that after I talk about the exceptional game that Mo Harkless had, where while he scored 7 points and the other guy scored 29 points, the guy who scored 7 points ran a plus 15 in the plus minus category and was one of the most impactful players on the court without putting up any stats. And what we have here is yin and yang. And that's what I realized when I was writing on Monday about, sometimes brothers fight. Mm-hmm. We have completely different personalities, completely different play styles. We have the long athletic defender who is nothing but selfless. And we have the flashy 3-point shooting scorer who is looking for his quite often. And these are two diametrically opposed players and people. And they need to figure out how to, because I think in order for the Kings to be good, these two players need to complete each other and be on the court together, because they can support each other's weaknesses and really, help like push each other in the right way. And so I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, you could call it shade. And I do remember my eyebrows kind of raising a bit when I heard Tyrese say that. But I think what it really comes down to is we've talked so much about holding players accountable, right? Especially among teammates. And I think that was a very subtle, but also like, let me beat you over. Like it's both subtle, but so beat you over the head with it, because it's like here's the media asking a question about how Buddy got, right? And you have this moment and it's like, well, no, I'm going to point out Mo to show not only what side I was on, to show that he was right, and to show that helped come before Buddy getting hot. Like that's what teammates do. That's what this team has been missing for the greater part of 4 years, is moments like that.
12.
And you don't necessarily need to do it through the media, but it's a double down on what you just did, right? Like, and again, one of the things that Jason Jones and I would always kind of laugh about when we would see moments like this, right? There was a moment we saw in practice one time where it's like somebody goes off and they have a disruption. And then there was one player, and I can't remember who it was for the life of me, but he just goes, but guys, we're winning. But we're winning. And that's what kind of came to mind seeing Mo blow up in the Spurs game. So it's like, look at the scoreboard. You just had a pretty good quarter. The argument from Mo appears to be bigger than what happened in the totality of the first quarter, having this lead and speaking more volumes to holding somebody accountable, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's so great. Like, that's leadership. That is a form of leadership. Now, you don't have to verbally undress a guy. Like, obviously, it can be
sometimes
a bad
it's
look,
needed. Sometimes
but
it's needed.
Sometimes you need, look, Steve Kerr breaks whiteboards on occasion, right? Like, he clipboards break. These things happen. So again, do you like to see how the sausage is made? I kind of do, because I like to know the ingredients that fuel success or fuel failure. So yeah, I kind of enjoy that. But I know for the average fan, they look like, oh, Mo Harkless and Buddy Hield, they must hate each other. And it's like, no, man, it's different than that. That's not necessarily what's going on.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, having Mo Harkless be the one that delivered that message, it's a lot more impactful than I think Ty at this point, just because Ty's so young. And so it could be like, Buddy be like,
But it's also, as I like to call Tyrese a low-key troll, and he did that to his face because of the little barbs that he'll throw Brendan Nunez's way, even your way at times. Like he likes these moments. And that was another moment where he's like, no, I'm going to kind of troll Buddy here. I'm going to kind of troll Buddy here to show that, no, Mo is right. Mo is spectacular, guarding 1 through 4. And Buddy, yeah, you had a nice fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think it's good stuff. And it leads us to a new segment here on the Kings Beat podcast. I don't think I'm going to do the business of basketball.
I was waiting for the sounder.
It's not the business of basketball.
Whoa!
We're going to do Tuesday overreactions.
Okay, good.
Because we have a podcast every Tuesday, and there's usually something that we're ready to overreact about, and or that the fans are, classically overreacting about. And so this is the inaugural Tuesday overreaction. Sean, Tyrese Haliburton, 3 games in a row, 20 points, 10 assists, 20 plus points, 10 assists. He's showing us the potential that we all know that is there, both as a scorer and as a setup man. The fact that he doesn't have 11 assists yet is pretty crazy.
He had 12 at one point, then they were taking 2 away.
Yeah, exactly. Our friend Carmichael Dave decided to do some crowdsourcing. And
good idea, especially when you do it on Twitter.
Always such a good idea to crowdsource via Twitter, because then it gives the franchise just more information to work with. Yeah, you probably need to watch the YouTube clip of what I just said there to make sure that you know that was sarcasm. He put out a Twitter poll: who's better, Tyrese Haliburton or Darren Fox? It's Sean.
So dumb. I'm sorry. That's just, I love
I'm just going to let you go then. Go ahead.
Just so dumb. What do we do? And if you know Dave, like I do, and I know you do, Dave is much like I am, although I do this away from social media. I am the biggest instigator you will ever meet in your life, next to Carmichael Dave. Like, he literally takes this propane and match, and he's like, dare me to just put these two together. Yeah, like, he knows what he's doing. He's being a dick is what he's doing, and it worked. I mean, it worked. People like to do it, and it's just so stupid. But go ahead. What's the question?
It's the overreaction of the week. Carmichael Dave.
I'm so the wrong person for this. Yes, Tyrese Haliburton is so much better than Darren Fox.
Yeah, the thing. Come on. What he's doing is he's taking the fringe fan and putting it out there and making it, and then like forcing you to, because there is no option just to see the results. Because I would like to see the results. I mean, last time I looked, it was like 1,700 votes. I'd like to, but I'm not going to vote on that. I have my personal opinion on who it is, and where we're at today is De'Aaron Fox is a better player, but where we're at in a couple of years, who knows?
It could be, yeah, it could be Tyrese Evans or Tyrese Evans. My God, what am I doing?
Yeah,
Lack of
Tyrese.
sleep.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, like, but I think the fans need to calm down. They need to calm down.
Dave included.
The best version of the Sacramento Kings is Tyrese Haliburton and De'Aaron Fox intertwining to become one of the best backcourts in basketball. And that is a potential outcome here. We don't need to rush to anything. De'Aaron Fox is under contract for what, 5 years? Tyrese Haliburton is under team control for like another 7 years. I mean, there's no reason to rush to judgment here at all.
Right.
Let them grow. Let them be together. And I hate to say that I'm siding with Matt Barnes because this is something Matt Barnes said, I guess, on postgame. But like, what are we doing here? No, the best version of the Kings is for these two to figure out how to be dynamic together. And there shouldn't be who's better. They're all teammates. And, at this point, I don't know if you can tell me who the best player is on the Kings. And maybe that's a problem, but
That's a problem.
I know who the highest paid guy is. And I think Fox's numbers statistically is the best player. But, I think Rashawn Holmes would get some votes in there. I think that Tyrese Haliburton would get some votes. I think that Harrison Barnes has moments where he would get some votes.
Harrison was the best player on the team for about a month and a half.
For the first couple of weeks of the season, for sure. No question asked.
Mm-hmm.
And Rashawn Holmes for segments of the season has been the best player on the team. So our overreactions, let's just calm down, people.
Yeah.
Like, right.
Just see, and I think he's also set people up for failure. And I can bring this back to when we started doing this podcast and we were talking about expectations for the team. And kind of want to be delicate how I say this, but I didn't expect him to be all that great. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but you do end up with people who haven't seen it yet. And they all of a sudden go, oh, well, they should be this. They should be better than this team. We should do this. And all that does is kind of set those fringe fans up to believe that. And then ultimately go, oh, I'm so disappointed when it doesn't happen again. And to me, that's so dangerous because at the end of the day, if you're the mindset of the organization and you want to sustain playoff success for years to come, if that ties into this year of making the playoffs and snapping this drought or even being in the play-in tournament, which again, the top 10 teams will do in the Western or in the Western Conference, that shouldn't be success, but it would be a step forward. And we can all agree on that. So if they fall short of that, and you've got people out there saying that they should have this many wins, they should do this. And I know those are people look too far into predicting, win-loss records. Will this be a playoff team? Should this team be better than this team? When you haven't even played games yet. That sets those little viruses, if you will, in the mind of I remember this person saying this, they should be better than this team. This person said that they should be this type of team, a 45-50 win team. And it's they haven't done that in how long? Why would this of all years be the one don't you have to kind of see it first? These people are the people I want to gamble with because they're morons. They're the ones that haven't seen it, but yet they're oh, I'm hell bent. I understand that this is my philosophy and why this is going to break. Why? Well, I haven't seen it, but these people are telling me, so I'm just going to go with it.
They're the sucker in the room, Sean.
Yeah.
They are the sucker in the room. You're right. You want to gamble with those people.
I do. I want to gamble with those people. But then Dave will put something out like this and they engage in this and you'll see, a lot of people after 3 games, they're thinking how many times we've talked about this, how many times do certain media will say, have they turned a corner? Have they started doing it's no, this is still probably at best a 500 basketball team, right? So you're going to get very much an inconsistent type that you just hope to see more consistent things over the course of the season, be it rebounding, be it defense, be it can they sustain 110 points a game? Can they, whatever that may be, can they keep their foot on the gas? Certain things like that. That's what you want to see the sustainable, more consistent stuff from. And that should ultimately lead to maybe more consistent win streaks, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're having these conversations, it's oh, okay, yeah, all these people tend to they're going to pick Tyrese Evans, or he did it again, Tyrese Haliburton, excuse me, over the course of 3 games while De'Aaron Fox is out with COVID. I mean, Darren Fox over the past 2 weeks has actually been really good.
Yeah, the
before
last
getting COVID. He was actually really, really good.
and the last player to have 20 points and 10 assists 3 games in a row was actually De'Aaron Fox. Yeah, I mean, literally the
Yeah.
last one to do it was Darren Fox. Okay, so that's gonna do it for that edition of the inaugural edition of Tuesdays Overreactions.
Tuesdays Overreactions
with
should also
Sean
just
Cunningham.
be Tuesdays Overreactions. You know, the segment that pisses off Sean Cunningham. That's what
right.
it's going to be every week.
Yeah, it's just like poke.
It's just going to be me tearing out the little hair. What? No, this isn't it. This is stupid. What are we talking about?
That's okay, so we're gonna move on from Tuesdays Overreactions to this other thing is an overreaction. We're gonna handle this pretty quick. Rashawn Holmes has missed 7 straight games with a lacerated eyeball.
Ouch.
This is not a standard injury that has a 4 to 6 week window. And to be honest with you, I think he's officially out at this point. I think it's 12 days. And
12 days, 5 games?
No, 7.
7. Oh,
so maybe it's yeah. So so a couple of things. Number one, there's no way to predict an injury like this. It's not a standard injury. So it is not a 4 to 6 week window for a knee issue, or a broken hand should be 6 to 8 weeks. Like, there are things that we know from watching professional sports. We know that when a guy tears his ACL in the NFL, he's gone for a year. We understand. Like, every once in a while, someone comes back way early, but it's just basic. If a guy gets a concussion, we can test it 3 days later, 5 days later, 12 days later. We can see where he's progressing, right? This is something that's different. Rashawn Holmes wants to be on the court so bad it's crazy, because that's who he is. No one is more frustrated than you, than him, including all of you fans that either have DFS, like daily fantasy sports, that are banking on him, or the folks out there that just can't figure out why Rashawn Holmes isn't playing yet. He will play when he can play. And I hate to see this, because his mom got involved on Twitter, because people are being incredibly insensitive. Like, Rashawn Holmes is just hanging out doing nothing. He literally has a laceration on his eyeball. People, calm down.
He had a procedure the next day, or maybe even that night, if I'm not mistaken. But that image of just seeing that big bandage that was around his eye, I mean, we're talking about an eye. You've only got 2 of those, and you need those in basketball. And this is a guy
in life, Sean.
Yeah, and this is a guy who, he's gotten hit multiple times this year. I mean, I remember speaking to him at practice, and this was probably almost 2 weeks after he got the eye contusion, and the eye was still red. Like, his right eye was still red on that moment, in that area. So yeah, I think they just need to, pump the brakes. It's day to day, because there's not really a fractured wrist, like you said. There's not an ACL tear. You don't really know how it's going to respond. And I'm fully anticipating him to go back to the goggles that he had when he was young. Like, this guy used to play with goggles before. So hopefully he does, to be able to protect himself, and hopefully it doesn't affect his beautiful floater and push shot that he has. And, hopefully it doesn't affect any of that. He's a pretty decent free throw shooter also. So maybe he'll do what Horace Grant did, when he would always, like, pull the goggles off, put them up on the forehead to shoot the free throws. Like, maybe we'll see that. But it's a delicate matter, man. And I know it is a day-to-day thing, and it's questionable every single day. Will Rashawn not only feel comfortable, but can he see? Is there blurry vision? Is his vision impaired? Is it something where if sweat gets in it, and how is that going to affect it? Consider that. Like, if you have a procedure, when you have a laceration on your freaking eyeball, how does that heal? How does that, what if you get sweat in there? Is that going to damage anything? And I think these are a lot of the things that are kind of being dealt with. And look, his mom is a doctor, so if she tells me to pump the brakes, we're definitely pumping the brakes.
I don't think she's a doctor in that kind of way, but I agree with you.
But she's smarter than me.
Yeah, either way, people need to pump the brakes. I mean, I remember reading a story years ago. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wore the goggles because he was poked in the eyes so many times that his eyes stopped making fluid to lubricate his eyes. And so he literally lives with a lifetime condition where his eyes don't create enough moisture, and so he has problems. So look, let's just back away. Also, we're going to get to our these are like secondary, the overreactions. Um, Sean, I know you love like messing with me about this. I absolutely love the good people of Portugal.
Portugal, the man, James Ham.
I love them. I love them. They're so incredibly fun. There was a guy who literally said that if we didn't have assurances that Nemias Keita was going to play on Sunday, that Portugal was going to invade Sacramento, and they have 10 million people, and there's only 500,000 here, and that we should be prepared. I thought it was hilarious, and he's gonna make sure that Doug Christie understands what the dilemma facing him. And to be honest with you, actually, it made me laugh, and I actually text Doug the exchange because it made me laugh so hard, and he found humor in it before the game, and I think that's a good thing. Keita got to play, so Portugal, please don't invade Sacramento. Uh, and just so you know, Portugal, we're in the middle of a gigantic COVID outbreak. You probably don't want to come anywhere near here. But either way, Keita got to play a couple of times. He got his first assist. He got his first rebound. He has not scored yet.
Got a block. It looked like 2 blocks.
It should have been 2 blocks. Yeah, but
Yeah.
he got a block. I think the interesting thing about this, Sean, is I like the game. What was it when he got all this? It was Friday, right? And who are they playing on Friday? The game's all running together at this point.
There was this San Antonio game? No, I'm sorry. Who was it?
Who did they lose to on Friday? Either way,
Memphis.
Memphis. Like he got into that game. I knew that game was going to be very difficult and was probably going to be a blowout. So you have a choice as someone who's covered 12 seasons of Sacramento Kings basketball, where the best season was 39 wins, but most seasons are between like 25 and 32, 33.
Mm-hmm.
You have a choice to either be negative and just start trashing the team. We've done that plenty of times already this season.
When necessary.
They didn't do anything that night that there was no way they could have stopped what was going to happen. They just found out that half their players going to miss a game. They were hoping the NBA would cancel that game. So I shifted gears and went on Nemias Keita watch because I knew he was probably going to play. So it's either you be negative and horrible, or you focus on some of the cool things that are happening. And to be honest with you, this is the first time someone from Portugal's ever played in a basketball game in the NBA. It's amazing. It should be celebrated by an entire country. I think it's super cool. And I'm here for you, Portugal. I'm here for you. Whether Sean is or not, he's anti-Portugal. I'm just.
Oh, I'm not. I love Portugal, and I've never been there. I'd love to go, but I will say this:
I've been to Spain, but I haven't been to Portugal.
I am so amused. I am so amused. Like James was like the proud dad waiting to get the moment, and like it was just great. Like I see all these Keita. Like every time I see a Keita tweet that comes from James, I just snicker. I think it's hilarious.
I think it's awesome too, and I'm having a good time with it. And
but in fairness, like you do it because there's a lot of people who really care, and
they care. They're up all night long waiting for it, and I love it. Like wake up, Portugal! Get up. He's playing. It's happening. So
it's almost like Jimmer Watch all over again.
It is very, very similar to Jimmer Watch. And then I'll tell you this, Portugal, you better not do what happened when Jimmer left the Kings, when I lost 400 Twitter followers in one day. That was an angry, like, man, I supported you guys. I snapped pictures of fans asking if they can be his sister wives. Like I gave you good content for Jimmer for a long time. And then you just all abandon me. Like just brutal.
They had no use for you.
Yeah, they had no more use. Okay, Sean, we're going to end this pod with the business of basketball.
There it is.
Sean, it is. You went to the Chase Center.
I did.
I've been to the Chase Center for a couple of games already. Was that your first game there?
That was my first event. Yeah, I was there before it opened. I had a couple things that we did before it opened, but that was my first time, even as credentialed media, which I was not. But I haven't been there in the building as credentialed media, and first time being in the building as with an event going on.
Yep.
And had a few takeaways. There's a lot of goods and there was some negatives there. And I would start off by saying, I know I always hear a lot of comparisons because it's obviously just, down the road, but between Golden One Center and Chase Center. And I think as we talked about in I think it was our last podcast where we're talking about things that we'd love to see, what be it in the rafters, decorations on the wall, like Chase Center definitely wins that. Like aside from having championship banners in the rafters. Like
they do have championship banners.
They've got those things.
Yeah, they're fancy.
But it's very well decorated. And you see things from the history all over the place. And that's a huge positive. It's not sterile. It doesn't look like, frankly, Golden One Center does. Golden One Center has that sterile feel to it. So they get a check mark there. Aesthetically, it's right on the water. I mean, this place is just gorgeous outside, right?
Yep.
But then the game experience itself, like sight lines, I did a good job walking around. I think the concourses look fine. They're a little bit more narrow than I thought, but for the most part, they're really, really nice. I like these like portal entries for your various sections. Like that can be a little confusing if you're like, oh, I'm in section 108, which I was in last night. And it's like, well, how the hell do I get to 108? Like you have to find your portal. So there's like this little tunnel way to get to your section when they could just put like section 108, 109 on the other side. You'd be fine. So a little bit confusing there, but sight lines, everything that you see around the arena are fabulous. The me, James, I love the video board in Golden One Center. Chase Center, a little bit newer, a little bit bigger, a little longer. That thing's a freaking mothership. So I'll give that and I think, by the way, the Kings will one day have a better one because obviously you'll have to upgrade eventually 4K, all that thing. So there was that. But yeah, I was a little disappointed in the food. Food options were a little rough, and price wise was about comparable, but the food was not quite good. I had a chicken sandwich, had some fries. A couple friends of mine had some options, and neither one of us came out of it going, oh, that was really good. No, the best thing was the drinks. The sound is better in Golden One Center, not as echoey. Chase Center is a little bit more echoey than what we were used to at Chase, or what we used to at Golden One Center. So I definitely give it the advantage there. So overall, I think Sacramento, you got a lot to be pleased with, and it does fall in line with the whole. When people come to town and they try to compare it, a lot of people keep telling me they like Golden One Center better.
Yeah, I like Golden One Center better. Again, I think the biggest thing you're talking about the sort of the mezzanine level, and number one, it's not open like Golden One Center. So if you're going to get a beer, you can't see in, or if you're at a concert, you can't see. So it is closed in. It's a lot more narrow. So it's, like when you're leaving Golden One Center versus when you're leaving Arco Arena and you got stuck in like a pile up outside your aisle, and you're like cattle being herded towards like 3 doors that are open. Yeah. That's just not what Golden One Center is. There's exits everywhere. There's so many ways to get outside, and so wide. I really think that that's brilliant the way that they designed it. I think they took a lot of the design from Golden One Center when they were building Chase. It does have a big lower bowl like Golden One Center, although I think Golden One Center is still much
the bigger
biggest bowl. Yeah,
it's a much bigger bowl. 10,500 in the lower bowl alone.
Yeah, the upper bowl is sketch in Golden One Center. Like I don't even like walking up there. Like I feel like I'm gonna fall off and land down on the court, which I know would not happen. I would like land other places. I've been in the suites. The suites in Golden One Center are amazing, and the lounges are amazing as well. And they have great sight lines and great views. I think Golden One Center, to me, like the big walkway is cool. The big glass doors is cool. Just the open air feel of it, just to me, it feels it feels like something different, something that we haven't seen before, where I kind of feel like Chase Center, even though it's not their previous building and it's like 100 times nicer than their previous building, it still has this weird feel to it that is the same. It's almost like you're like kind of sunken down in, and I just think it's weird that I feel that way when I'm there. And I'll tell you, behind the scenes, like trying to get from point A to point B there is
it's impossible.
It's crazy.
And yeah, I've heard that. I haven't been able to experience that part of it, but I will say this, like, and maybe you need a few years to get there, but there is development around Chase Center, but it's a lot of residential. There's some other corporate stuff, like Old Navy has a corporate base like right next to it.
Yeah.
And you don't have the whole like I mean, Doco's remarkable. I think it can be even better once Tom's Watch Bar opens up and you get some more of these like bars, restaurants, other stuff of that.
Sean's
Not
excited
so.
about Tom's Watch Bar.
Oh, I can't. I'm going to be like Norm
I'm
from
excited.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm going to have my own perch at Tom's Watch Bar, and that place better stay open late because I'm gonna frequent that place a lot. But yeah, like between Tom's Watch Bar, like all these things that you have in Golden One, sauce right over there. You got Punch Bowl, you got Yard House, you have all these things. Like you don't really have that at Chase yet. Maybe I know there's some in walking distance. There's a brewery that's down there by Oracle Park for the Giants. So yeah, it's cool to see the development down there. I like the waterfront. I do. There's a lot of stuff I do like about Chase, but I think you hit it right on the head, James. It's there's definitely some moments there, but I can't. I want to check out a concert there. Can't wait for that. But yeah, even from a sound thing, I'm a big sound guy, and a lot more echoey in Chase Center than Golden One.
Okay, and then we'll go behind the scenes a little bit on this one. We're not going to expand out. We talked about maybe like talking about the best arena we've ever been to. We'll hit that another time. But there are two things that do separate Chase Center. Number one, they have an ice cream machine for media.
I didn't see that.
They do. They have a full like you can make yourself a sundae. And the food is comparable to what you're getting from Golden One, although I think that the Warriors usually do like halftime hot dogs, which is good. And then the other thing is inside of like there's these little pods, like they have the visiting media room, like we have this little workroom, and then there's the regular media workroom, and they have so much more media than Sacramento does, so they kind of separate us. But in those rooms, we do have little refrigerators with beer. So post-game beer, they have a lock on the door until post-game, and then they pull a lock and we're allowed post-game beer. So Sean, that brings me to the question, what's the best media food / media experience that yeah.
Boy, you go first. That's tough. Oh my gosh. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so when you're in Portland, the food is usually okay. It's not bad, but after the game, they always have a beer and wine attendant. A guy wheels in like this keg of beer and he has wine on it as well. And so they do serve beer and wine as you're doing your post game stuff. That to me is really cool. Staples Center has they have their standard dinner that you eat, which is I think it costs us $7 or $8 there. Some places it's free. There it's either 7 or 8. But then when you like around the room, they too have an ice cream machine. They also have like a nacho bar. You can make yourself chili cheese nachos and chili dogs.
Yep.
They also have a refrigerator filled with sandwiches. So you can do that. They have like a ton of drink options, including like some frappuccino type things. So I think the food there is probably the best. Although I think it was Utah where I went and they introduced us to Frank's Red Hot. They had Frank's Red Hot on the table everywhere. And now Frank's Red Hot, I put on everything.
You put that on everything.
Yeah. What is the Eli Manning? I put that on everything. Yeah.
So and I just imagine the average person listening to our podcast going, "You spoiled media brats! Like, look at all this treatment that you get." Yeah, it's pretty. It can be pretty great from depending on which city you're at. I think you hit it right on the head, James. I think Staples to me is probably the best. Although, I've been to Portland at times when they didn't have that wine and beer thing going on. And for the record, for my ABC 10 folks, I don't drink on the job. I can't do it even afterwards. So, they won't let me do it even afterwards, right when it's over on the venue, on the premises. So I don't partake. But I will say the Staples setup is pretty great because even though the food might not be great, there's so many options. But I'm going to take it a step back. Outside of the NBA, Levi's Stadium, buddy. Levi's Stadium is immaculate.
It's
not even fair. Yeah, it's not even fair, bro.
Yeah, so people know, like when you're going to cover a 1:00 game, you got to get there like 9:30, 10. The parking to get there is a nightmare, but then you have like field access. You have all these things that are happening. So they serve breakfast. You show up, there's breakfast, like a full breakfast. And then once the game starts, they clean that up. You get to halftime. There are hot dogs and chicken strips and all kinds of other stuff. You get to post game. They bring in pizzas, and then they bring out all kinds of ice creams. Yeah, that's a trip,
It
Sean.
doesn't end. It doesn't end. And you can have like, you can have taco bar. They have like prime rib that they're serving. I mean, it just
Yes,
depends on the day or the game. There's always some carving of a meat that they have. I'm like, what the hell is
a
this? This is
carving
like,
station.
yeah, I'm like, this is unbelievable. And I'm telling you that. And maybe that's just, I've been to several other NFL venues, not a lot, not as much as the NBA, and certainly in comparison to what the Oakland Raiders had at the Coliseum. I mean, there's not even a comparison. But yeah, man, like Levi's just goes all out, and they have incredible spread. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is so unnecessary. Like,
Yeah.
where's a box lunch or something like that? Like, oh my god, this is like above and beyond. So that's the one that just leaps off the page for me.
Yeah, and their media room, it's vast. Like they must have like a couple of hundred seats. Again,
Yeah,
it really does depend on like how much media covers you. And I think the Kings have they do a good job. I mean, we don't have to pay for food, which is good. It's not always great. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's not. We try not to complain too much. They have
never.
an unlimited popcorn. They have the best cookies in the NBA. You can check with Kevin Arnovitz will confirm that from ESPN. He tells
As will
everybody
Mark
about their
Spears.
cookies. Yeah, the best cookies. Yeah, so they do take care of us. This is a random topic that just kind of happened. But still, I think it gives you a behind the scenes look. Most places do feed us because we're there for hours and hours. Like a normal game day, like a basic game day is like 4 to midnight at a minimum. But on days where they have shoot around, it starts at like 10:45. So I leave my house at 9:30, 9:15, and I don't get home until almost 1 o'clock in the morning on a normal game. So it's a long day, Sean.
It's a commitment.
It is a commitment to excellence.
Mediocrity.
We both have the same thought. It's not excellence. All
Far
right.
from it.
Sean, do you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Yeah, I want to take it away from basketball a bit. I know we've got another podcast before the holiday, but one of the cool things about having a birthday around the holidays is it feels like everyone gets festive for your birthday, and it's like, oh no, it's still Christmas. So yeah, I just love this time of year. I hate the fact it's going to rain. I know we need it, but like there's a reason I live in California and I hate the rain. So the weather's going to get crazy. You're probably going to have a white Christmas up in where you live. So get ready for that. But yeah, it is kind of festive. I like to see everyone in the holiday spirit. So yeah, I think that Wednesday game against the Clippers is going to be a fun atmosphere at Golden One Center. I really do. Because I think there's an appreciation of what some of these guys are going through right now. I really do. And I just feel like, especially so close to Christmas, I think that game's going to be a pretty electric atmosphere.
Ooh,
And,
electric.
and then I'm looking forward to that Memphis game on Sunday after Christmas, the 26th. Hopefully the Kings have some bodies back. That would be a great thing, especially after 3 days off. So yeah, there could be some fun moments there. Ja Morant's back for Memphis. That's gonna be a fun game.
I'll make the prediction. Memphis played the Kings in the middle of a COVID outbreak. I'm going to guess that Memphis might be down a few players.
See, you say that, and it has bear fruit. Like that has happened with some of, as you mentioned earlier in the show. But I'm wondering about the Warriors. So you have Keita who goes down. Now, granted, these guys submit tests. They were, Keita didn't have a positive test when he played, obviously. But you saw Wiggins who went down before the game for the Warriors.
Bull.
I mean, and you've got the Christmas games coming up, which everyone's concerned about. That Warriors-Suns game to me is like a must-see game. And I'm hoping everybody is as healthy as can be for that game, because now that the Kings have gone into Chase Center and possibly infected that place, hopefully we don't see any Warriors that are on the COVID list going into that game against Phoenix on Christmas Day.
Sacramento Kings, NBA super spreaders.
All
right, so I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Make sure to give us a subscription here on YouTube channel, and give us a thumbs up on the YouTube channel.
Thumbs up means you really approve, right?
Yeah,
Or is the subscription you really approve, but the thumbs up is, we'll tolerate you?
no, I think the thumbs up actually helps with the algorithm.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
it actually gets you more people that will organically see this, which is good.
Okay.
And that's good. So big shout out to my dudes at ESPN 1320. I've been on like not I think last week 4 days because there's so much news and so much happening. So make sure to give my dudes a listen, D'Lo, Casey over there. Make sure to subscribe to the King's Beat. Get a premium subscription because let's see, January 6th is a Thursday night from 5:30 to 7. We're gonna do the second off the record Kings Beat happy hour, which is usually fun. See Sean over there, like,
Can't wait.
and
Can't
I think
wait.
we're gonna get another guest to go with us because having Damian Barling was spectacular on the first one. I thought it was good. It added a different element. Maybe we'll find someone else to add in.
Hmm.
So, but you do not get an invite to that unless you are a premium subscriber to the King's Beat. So everyone be safe. The COVID virus is out there right now. It's all around us. Mask up, be safe for your families. Have a good holiday. We'll see you on Thursday. But in case you missed that show, we're sending good thoughts out to everyone and make sure everyone's healthy and has a great holiday season. So for Sean Cunningham from ABC 10, which I always forget, I
It's
am
okay.
I am James Ham, your Kings insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We'll see you in a couple of days.